Ratan Chamrala.
आपका तो पता है, इसीलिए बोल सकता हूँ कि आपको
Ideas drive change, and wisdom can transform the ideas and wisdom that transformed the profession of chartered accountancy over the years. Our forefathers and their vision of India's premier accountancy institute. The Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, or ICAI, in the year 9, its members have followed the essence of its motto, Ya Esha Sukteshu Jagati, the person who is awake in those that sleep. As our nation's words matter. Ideas drive change.
Accountant. Did she ever think that language would be a barrier? She did not. Did she ever think that her financial status would be a barrier? She did not. All she wanted to do was become a chartered accountant, a committed achiever. The only place where achievement comes before commitment is in the dictionary. It was this commitment to achieve that led to the formation of this.
Good morning, everyone. At the outset, I thank each one of you for keeping a faith on us that Hyderabad branch starts the program on time. And I'd be failing in my duty if I don't keep up the faith you have. President sir is in some discussions with Sandeep Sultania.
And we had promised to start the session at 9:30. We will start the session at 9:30. President sir will join later on. No disrespect to anyone. It's only that I need to respect the time of the members. I requested Satish Raff, who will be taking up the first session, and by the time Satish completes the first session, Atul sir will also join, and then we can start the session. So at sharp 9, it's 9:25. May I request Satish Mailavarapu, co-chairman Sikasa, to directly take over from here and then start the session. We'll have this inaugural and all later on. And I'll be very thankful to you, Satish sir, for always accommodating me. Hopefully it is the last pressure of mine from you. Thank you. Satish, over to you.
I request C.A. Harikrishna Garu to present a bouquet to the speaker. Thank you, Harikrishna Garu. It's my privilege to introduce the speaker of the first technical session, C.A. Satish Sharaf. C.A. Satish Sharaf, a practicing chartered at Hyderabad since 1999 and having experience of 21 years in various areas in specialized in value-added tax, central sales tax and goods and service tax. He is a graduate of commerce and graduate of law from Osmania University and fellow member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. He is a director of HS Tax Advisory Private Limited and partner of Sharaf Satish and Company Chartered Accountants. He was the coordinator for the technical guidance sales tax audit in the state of Andhra Pradesh, published by ICI in the year 2000. He was a convener of the Hyderabad study group of GST, constituted by India Tax Company of the ICI. The group has prepared part of the background material on GST law published by ICI. He was the managing committee member of the Hyderabad branch of SIRCF ICI during the year 2007 and 2010. Hyderabad branch of Sikasa was awarded the best branch during each term as chairman of Sikasa. I request members to give big round of applause for this one. Satish Sharaf involved in education. GST Governance Redress Committee for the year 2020 and 21. With this small brief introduction, I hand over the proceedings to Satish Garu.
Today I'm a bit nervous, I don't know why. Very warm good morning to my brothers and sisters of Hyderabad. At the outset, I thank Hyderabad branch for giving this wonderful opportunity to stand in front of you and talk on the provisions of search, seizure and arrest under the GST law. Maybe after 1 year of time I am facing audience like this, otherwise it's always information technology or some gadget I used to speak, but today I am speaking to my brothers and sisters. I am very happy for that. Indeed, one more thing in my mind, it taking away the happiest moment that during my friend's tenure as chairman, this is the first physical meeting he is conducting, and during my friend Chairman Trivedi's chairmanship, this is happening the first physical meeting, and hope and what he says that this is going to be the last meeting as his chairman under his chairmanship under the physical mode. So being the part of that prestigious seminar and where the president is gracing the occasion, I think I am the blessed and I am happy for that. Today's topic is given to me is search, seizure, arrest under the GST law. Why I have selected this topic? Because the chairman always gives a liberty to the speaker to select the topic. He never says that you take up the topic. But I have selected this topic because day in and out for the past 1 year we have been listening that so many people are arrested under the GST for various reasons. and why they are getting arrested, what is the reasons behind that, and whether as a chartered accountant can we involve into the practice of search and seizure and arrest, whether what kind of knowledge we should possess to drive into this kind of a practice, because since ages in income tax the search and the seizure procedures only few chartered accountants are handling. But my aim is different from others. So I thought I wanted to share certain things with you from the provisions of the law, such that the members who are attending here should be able to start their career in search proceedings under the GST law. It is nothing very big task or big thing to learn, but very one or two or three sections which are important relating to this aspect. So if you are well equipped with these provisions and certain other laws which will help us to do practice in this area. As you are aware, in the budget, in the Finance Bill 2021, the Finance Minister has made a move to abolish the GST turnover audit. So why don't we consider this area as a lucrative area and where we can start our practice as a fresh and give our services to the nation and to the persons who are suffering with this GST arrest. Moreover, various people, not only various people, even our brothers are getting arrested under the GST law. We heard that 8 chartered accounts on one place arrested, and few chartered accounts are also arrested in Hyderabad by DGGI. So whether the government is having or the department is having the power to arrest a chartered accountant, that we need to understand, and then we say that at the end of the session, I hope we'll all come to one conclusion saying that chartered accountant cannot be arrested for GST offences. My entire session, I am going to cover these sections and these rules and these forms which are relevant for the purpose of this session. In detail, the sections are like this. Section 67, powers to inspection, search and seizure, and Section 69, power to arrest, and Section 129, 130, I may not be touching, but these are relating to seizure of the goods or vehicle or conveyance, and then Section 132, which prescribes the punishment for certain offences. All these sections I am referring from Central GST Act. Don't understand some other act in the GST law. It is CGST Act which I am going to refer. And these are the rules which are governing the procedures to be followed by the department with respect to search, seizure and arrest. And these are the forms which need to be used by the department in administering the procedures to be followed by the department. So before we go into the topic on search and seizure, apart from the GST law, a chartered accountant who should or he should or she should foot into the shoes of an advocate, and let us try to understand a few provisions of the criminal procedure law, CRPC, that we should know certain provisions under the CRPC law such that which are very important with relation to the search and seizure, because these provisions are very much aligned to the CRPC provisions, so one need to understand those provisions also. And also apart from the CRPC, we need to understand few provisions, few parts of the Constitution of India, like Article 14, which deals with equality before the law, what the article says and what whether the government is following that article under the Constitution or not, we should know. And Article 19, which deals with fundamental rights, whether while arresting or maybe during the search operations, whether the department or the government is not disturbing the fundamental rights of a citizen, whether that need to be understood. And Article 21, which talks about the personal liberty. While doing the search operations, the officers are not expected to disturb the personal liberty of any person unless it is otherwise warranted. Then Article 22, which talks about the arrest and detention of a person. So Constitution has given certain procedures to be followed by the officers while arresting a person. Like within 24 hours of the arrest day, he has to be produced before the magistrate, and the person who is arrested should be given the reasons for arrest, and all other things which are mentioned in Article 22, the department has to follow. If you correlate the CRPC provisions and articles of these 4 articles of the Constitution and the provisions given in the GST law, I think it is very difficult for the department to arrest any person. But for reasons we don't know, the department is arresting every day, so many persons. We have information, particularly I say I have certain information from the department. It is unofficial information in the department says every day, every state DGGI should arrest 1 person in a day. These kind of targets have been kept for them. If the department heads are giving those kind of instructions to the subordinate officers to arrest a person in a day from each state, so whether we are in sovereign India or whether the Constitution is protecting us or not, these are the things which we need to understand, and then the government should come out and say that where the government is following the procedures or not, and whether really the arrest is required in all the cases, one is need to understand. The major role for arrest in all the arrests we have seen that the statement is recorded by the department. Basing on those statements under section 70 of the CGST law, they are arresting the people. But the law talks differently. Let us understand what law says. And before we go into the section 67 of the CGST Act, let us understand what is the main object or the purpose or why the laws and how they are designed to administer the law. Any law will have 4 parts of it. One is for the maintenance of law, that is what is subjected to levy and how the maintenance of the law is made, like rules relating to the levy and collection of taxes and all these things. Then comes the prevention of offences, like provisions relating to penalties and interest, which in turn says these provisions will prevent any offence to be happened under the law. Then the third part comes is the detection of offences, where we are going to deal on this aspect today, that is how the department is going to detect the information and how that information is used for the punishment for offences, the 4th part. If you consider laws like narcotics law or certain other laws where there is no provisions for the maintenance of law, it is only preventive and the detection of the law. But coming to the fiscal laws, any law will contain provisions relating to these 4 parts. Today our attention maybe for the next 45 minutes will be on the detection of the offences and punishment for the offences. Let us go in detail into the subject and understand what actually GST law says. Section 67 subsection 1 deals with the inspection, which is nothing but 133 provisions under the Income Tax Act, that is survey. You know that big difference between, there is a big difference between inspection and search. Like in our income tax, we have 133 and 132 provisions. In these 2 provisions, that is inspection and search, there is the difference, basic difference is the powers are restricted with respect to inspection. In search, the powers are expanded. That is the difference. In inspection, the powers are only to enter into the business premises of the taxpayer, whereas in search, they can enter into any premises. To make an inspection or to enter into the premises of a registered person for the purpose of inspection, any proper officer not below the rank of a joint commissioner, it says. So a joint commissioner or above the rank can authorize an inspection. Any officer below the rank of a joint commissioner cannot authorize or cannot initiate any inspection proceedings. And that joint commissioner or officer above the joint commissioner shall have reasons to believe The word reasons to believe plays a vital role. When we move to the search operations, we will discuss in detail what is those reasons to believe. But for this slide, maybe for the next 2 or 3 minutes, we'll understand there should be reasons to believe that an inspection can be carried out. And the inspection can be carried out on a registered person in his business premises, over a business premises of a transporter or a owner or a operator of a warehouse or a godown. Any place they cannot search, do the inspection, they have to do only in the business premises of the registered person, not elsewhere. What purposes an inspection can be done? That is one most important thing, where the proper officer thinks that, or where he has reasons to believe that the taxable person is suppressing the transactions relating to the supply of goods or services or both. So, where this information he gets from the, and how he can start a inspection proceeding. Say supplier has uploaded his information in GSTR 1 return, and he has paid the tax in his GSTR 3B return. The recipient has not shown those transactions in his GSTR 3B return. So his input as per 2A is say 1 crore of rupees, but whereas he accounted only 50 lakhs of rupees as input tax credit. Then there is a reason to believe that there is a suppression of supply of transactions, or where the proper officer thinks that the stock on hand, if an inspection is not carried out, he may suppress the stock in hand. These could be a reasons to believe. And the proper officer thinks that the registered person has claimed the input tax credit in excess what is entitled. So my GSTR 2A shows of 1 crore of input tax credit, but whereas I have claimed 4 crores of input tax credit. So for what reasons I am claiming that additional 3 crores of input tax credit, for that the department can conduct an inspection. Or where the department thinks that the registered person or the transporter or the owner or operator of a godown has contravened the provisions of the law. Where I am expected to do certain activity but I am not doing that, then in that situation the department can do inspection. And with respect to transporter and the owner of a godown or operator, where the department thinks if the inspection is not carried out on a particular transaction, the transporter may not declare those transactions, the tax may escape for levy. So in that situation, they can do that. And if on any godown or any place of warehouse where the department feels that if an inspection is not carried out, it is going to amount to evasion of tax. So in these for particular things, the inspection can be carried out by the department. So friends, let us move to the search operations. We have similar provisions in income tax, but these provisions under the GST law, taking into account the 70 years Supreme Court judgments and the High Court judgment, they have all those judgments, they have nullified and they have brought the provisions into the GST law with the wisdom of 70 years of experience. Even though after 70 years of our independence, still we have these provisions in law. So whether it is the fault of the department or it is the fault of the taxpayer, one needs to think on this line. If the taxpayer is not at fault, so section 67 itself is not required in the statute book. Because the businessman is so greedy, he is evading the taxes, he is not paying the tax and he is defeating the exchequer. Maybe for these reasons, the department is coming out with these kind of provisions in the law. Here also, the proper officer, not below the rank of Joint Commissioner, can conduct the such operations. Whether the Joint Commissioner or the Commissioner has the power to delegate this authority to the power of issue of arrest warrant to the search warrant to the subordinate officers? My answer is no, he cannot delegate it. Only he can authorize the other officers to make a search, but he cannot delegate the authority to initiate the search. That's what I wanted to bring it to your notice. The search can be conducted in pursuance of an inspection conducted under section 67 subsection 1 or otherwise. That means where there is a inspection is going on, that inspection can be converted into a search operation. Because in inspection they cannot seize any goods, things or records, but in such proceeding they have the right to seize or lock any premises. So in pursuance of an inspection carried out or otherwise, the proper officer not below the rank of Joint Commissioner can initiate a such proceedings. Section 67 subsection 2 also says that the Joint Commissioner or the Commissioner should have the reasons to believe to initiate a such operations. Why I am saying Joint Commissioner and Commissioner only, why I am not talking about Principal Commissioner and Chief Commissioner and Principal Chief Commissioner. Under the law, only till the Commissioner they have the powers to make the adjudication. Below that rank, above that rank, those positions like Chief Commissioner, Principal Chief Commissioner, these people are only administrative persons. They don't have any authority to make any adjudication and do any inquiry. So it is always Commissioner, Additional Commissioner or the Joint Commissioner who are the persons. Coming to the reasons to believe, the proper officer need to record those reasons to be believed for on what reasons he is initiating a search operation. This should be recorded in advance, not after initiation. It has to be recorded in before. After recording these reasons, whether the officer is bound or is required to share that reasons to believe with the assessee, my answer is no, because he is not required. But whenever the courts ask him on what reasons you have initiated the search operations, then that officer is bound to produce before the court for what reasons, on what belief he has conducted the search operations. So in one of the case like RCI Technologies, RCI Industries was a technology in Technology Limited, where the court has given summons to the officer and said what are the reasons available on with you, on what reasons you have started the search operations. Then the officer has produced the records, his office records, notes on what reasons, what he has recorded in his records, and basing on those reasons he has started the search initiations. So those reasons have been given in the judgment of the High Court, and the High Court has reproduced those reasons. If you find time, go through those reasons. It will be very educative to understand what is the reasons, how the officer has to record those reasons, and all these things we can understand. The reasons to believe must be factual. It cannot be on a presumption. It cannot be an assumption. It should be factual. And the information should be there on record with the department. It cannot be, see, for example, in one case where we are dealing, the Hyderabad Commissioner has received the information from his counterpart of Tirupati, DGGI Tirupati, on 11th of the January, whereas he has recorded reasons saying that on 10th I have received the information from Tirupati and I have started the search proceedings. So that reason is not a valid reason. It cannot stand the test of the law. So in all these notices where search operation is carried out and a notice is issued either under section 73 or under section 74, in any case the department is not going to follow 73 proceedings for a search operation. It will be always 74. So under 74, I advise you, please object in every reply to the show cause notice saying that the reasons to believe are not properly followed by the department and those reasons are not proper. Maybe we may get a chance to win the case, maybe at the High Court level or maybe Supreme Court. Because till tribunal, I am not confident that we'll get a judicious orders. Because up to tribunal, it is only fact-finding authority, not the law. And this section says that unless the things, goods or records are secreted in a place. What is secreted? Where in the normal course of operations or normal course of inquiry or inspection, the records cannot be obtained. So where they are secreted in a place or a receptacle or a box or a information technology device. So for those purposes, the search has to be taken place. Even though books of accounts are available at the registered office of the registered person, but still they are not secreted. In normal course of inspection, you can obtain the access to those information, but still the department is conducting the search operations. So that is which I say that unless the things or documents or the goods are secreted, the department should not initiate the search proceedings. Say I have 4 godowns, 1 principal place of business and 4 godowns. In my certificate of registration, there are only 2 godowns and registered places mentioned. So the additional godowns which are not mentioned in the certificate of registration, I can think the department take the plea that you have 2 godowns which are not mentioned in the certificate of registration. That means that can be a secret. But where the books of accounts are kept openly in the office of the registered person and there is no secretion of the information or the records, I think in those situations they need not. We may get, say, when we are practicing chartered accountant in our office, there are hundreds of clients' information is available in our office. The records relating to them is also available in our office. Whether the department can search and seize the chartered accountant officer information relating to all the assessees? No. The answer is they can search the chartered accountant office and on behalf of which client they are searching the chartered accountant office or advocate office, only those records they can seize, not relating to the others. May be possible that during the search search operations of a registered person, they found the books of accounts of the other registered person. Whether those records can be seized. Whether basing on that information, the department give a show cause notice to the registered person. That we maybe in the next slide we will answer this question. But unless the information or the records or the goods are secreted, the department cannot do any such operation. And the department feels that the goods are liable for a confiscation, but still if this seizure is not made, the department is going to lose the revenue. In that case, they can do the search. And the documents, records, documents, books or things relevant for the purpose of proceedings under the Act, those things can be seized during the search operations. Document, we can understand what is a document, any written, whether typewritten or printed or manuscript or maybe a information technology, maybe a email or anything of this kind is a document, those documents. Books, we know what maybe we call daybook ledger or maybe some book or where the diary where all this information is maintained, those are things. But thing, what is a thing? Apart from the goods, documents and the books, the law also prescribes the things. What is that thing? Those things can also be seized by the department during the search operations. What is a thing? Don't say it is anything. Say in one of the judgment of the Madhya Pradesh High Court, Indore branch, the court has held that cash is a thing. They have taken the definition from the Black's 7th edition and other dictionaries, and as per the definition given in those dictionaries, and they concluded that cash is also a thing. That means during the search operations by the GST department, now they can seize the cash also. But whereas under the income tax law, the inventory is not subjected to seizure. But whereas in GST, because the law is on the goods and services, so they have the right to seize the goods, documents, books and things. So when the cash is a thing, then anything could be a thing also. Just I am leaving it to your imagination. Once this search operation is done, it can be done by any officer who is authorized by the Joint Commissioner, or the Joint Commissioner himself can do the search operations. What will be the consequences where the search happened to be an illegal search? If any search operations or the search procedures are not been adhered by the department, and if it is beyond doubt is proved in the court of law that the search operations are illegal, what will be the consequences? A legal search, consequentially, the proceedings under the issue of show cause notice, or maybe the other proceedings or arrest under the search will become valid. But when it comes to a illegal search, all the consequential activity of the department basing on an illegal search will become illegal. Supreme Court has dealt in various reasons, various occasions, that once the search is illegal, then the consequence, all operations will become illegal. Because I have been given only 1 hour of time, I have to stick to my time, so please, I'm unable to give you the citation, other things, but because you know me personally, whenever you have a doubt or whenever you want a citation or a case law, please contact me, I'll give you, because each one of you personally know me and I also personally know you, so I think I can share this information anytime. Maybe a search which has been held by the law, the courts as illegal, the consequential, the show cause notice will become illegal, and the search consequential to the arrest consequential to illegal search will also become illegal. But the information which the department is seized, that is document, books or things, basing on that information, I think they can make a assessment against the registered person. Maybe arrest and search and those things will prevail, but the assessment can very much take place. Reasons to believe and reasons to suspect are two different things. Reasons to believe need to be recorded, but the reasons to suspect is the basis on which the reasons to believe is created by the department. So these reasons to be believed, we need to understand section 67 subsection 11. Maybe in the next 2 slides we are going to understand what is section 67 subsection 11, where the department suspect that the person, if he is given access to the books of accounts or information, he is going to hamper the proceedings, or maybe the tax is going to be evaded. In that reasons, if they suspect, they can, those suspicion can convert into a belief, and then a search operation can be conducted. I already told you that cash is a thing. In case of Madhya Pradesh High Court, Indore bench has held that it is a thing. And while search operations in the show cause notice, several places we read the word incriminating material found in the premises of the registered person. Basing on that incriminating material, the officer is coming to following conclusions, and the tax is proposed basing on this. What is that incriminating material? So what is the information is available in GSTR 1, GSTR 2A, GSTR 3B is not incriminating material. The information which is available to the department, maybe at the MCA site or maybe some other information like from income tax department, that is not the incriminating material. The information, the records or the documents which are become relevant to raise a demand against the registered person. Say, they have unearthed certain transactions which are not recorded into the books of accounts. They have unearthed one bank account which is not brought into the books of the registered person. So those kind of information will become very crucial, and the word, the incriminating material, is used in the law or any show cause notice which we come across. Then I think for my fellow members, I need not tell what is a document, you know it very well. And the Indian Evidence Act given a lot of information on what is a document, what is a not document, and when it is document, when it is not a document, when it amounts to information. All these things one need to understand from the Evidence Act. And for any such operation, the department has to prepare a Panchanama. This is prescribed under the CRPC, Criminal Procedure Code. Panchanama always must be recorded in before the two independent witnesses. Generally, these two independent witnesses are also brought along with the department. Before recording the Panchanama, the department will ask the registered person whether you allow these two persons to be panchas for this Panchanama or you want to have your own panchas. Then always it is better, in the practical sense I am saying, always it is better to allow the departmental witnesses to be allowed and to be the witness for the purpose of recording Panchanama. Why this is, why I am saying that departmental witnesses we should accept. Because during the provision of when the proceedings are in the process, or maybe at the tribunal level, or maybe at the commissioner level, for cross examination, if the witnesses are from the departmental side, it is easy for us to cross examine and get the evidence which is against the which is used by the department against the SC, we can convert into a favorable thing in favor of the department. Because if it is our own witnesses, then they look into all the aspects and they know the us and all these things they know. But if it is departmental witnesses, they don't know. They may be a witness, but they don't know who is the registered person, but they have signed it. But in cross-examination, we can get that information on record and we say that the search has been is illegal and the Panchanama is not properly recorded. So it is always better to have the departmental witnesses. That will be better. What should be the search timing? I think the Supreme Court has given various judgments, and in income tax it should be after the sunrise and before the sunset. All these things are there in the statute books and even the judgments. But recently, Telangana High Court Justice M.S. Ramchandra Rao, in the case of M.S. Agrawal Foundries Limited, it is in writ petition number 28266 of 2019, where Justice M.S. Ramchandra very clearly says that the search should be started after sunrise and after the before sunset. And in this particular case, what has happened was the registered person was given the summons in the midnight 12 o'clock to appear before him, the Joint Commissioner, for the purpose of recording the statement. Then the Justice said this is not the proper timing of handing over the summons for recording the statement. So the department should follow certain timings and they have to do the activity for the purpose of enforcement. It happened that during the search operations, the department has seized several information relating to the documents, books, things, or maybe goods. But the department, all that information will not become an incriminating material. So certain material, certain documents, they does not rely upon to issue a show cause notice. In that situation, under section 67 subsection 3, the officer is bound to return their information which is not relied upon by the proper officer for purpose of issue of show cause notice. Within 1 month from the date of issue of show cause notice, that information has to be returned to the registered person from whom the information is seized. Within 1 month from the date of issue of show cause notice, that has to be returned to the registered person. And the proper officer, under the search authorization, he has the power to seal any premises, box, receptacle, or any electronic device, seal, or he can break open any room, box, receptacle, or information technology device where the access is denied. Maybe because of the size of the box or maybe receptacle is huge that it cannot be transported. So in that situation, the officer will serve a probation order saying that until my further instructions, you are not allowed to open the box or use any information out of that. So they have the power to seal or even the break open where the access is denied. Maybe during the search operation, certain goods relating to the registered person have been seized. And from the date of seizure, the department fails to issue any notice within 6 months from the date of seizure. If the department fails to issue a notice within 6 months of the seizure of the goods, then all those goods need to be released to the registered person. But the proper officer, if he is having sufficient reasons, he has to record those reasons and he can extend that period to another 6 months. Here, no power or authorization is required from the Joint Commissioner or the Commissioner to retain the goods for another 6 months of time. But the proper officer himself, he is empowered to extend the period of 6 months. So, beyond 1 year, the department cannot retain those goods. When the goods are seized, if the goods are hazardous, or maybe bulky in nature, or maybe where their value will depreciate due to lapse of time, in those circumstances, the proper officer has to make a inventory of those goods and he has the power to dispose of those goods in the open market, and the proceeds will be adjusted towards the tax liability. So, they have to make a inventory and then they have to dispose. And wherever it is mentioned in CRPC Act, the inspector or the magistrate, to that extent, wherever it appears for the purpose of such operations, Joint Commissioner or the Deputy Commissioner or the Assistant Commissioner need to be replaced. So, the powers which are available to a station of officer of a police station and the magistrate, these powers are exercised by the GST officials. And the proper officer who has made the search and who has seized the goods, he has power to retain the documents, books and things as far as which are relevant for the provisions of the Act to make the assessment. Till that time he can retain. So it could be 1 year, it could be 5 years, it could be 10 years. There is no restriction in the law what is that period is required to make the assessment. And in a normal course, during a assessment or adjudication, the proper person, the registered person or any other person has produced certain documents or books before the officer, and the officer believes or the office has a suspect that if these books of accounts are given back to the registered person or any other person, it can lead to tax evasion or which is going to hamper the provisions of the proceedings under the law. He has to record these reasons in writing and he has to issue a receipt to the person who has produced those books of accounts, and he can retain those documents. It is not search operations, it is not inspection. In the normal process, where there is a assessment notice is given to you under section 73 and where you have produced the books of account before the officer, if the officer thinks that if these books of accounts, if I allow him to take back, that is going to prejudicially affect the interest of the revenue, he can seize those documents also. In a normal operation also he has a power. And section 67 subsection 12 empowers the officers to enter any premises of the registered person and to purchase or take the services. If that person issues a valid tax invoice or bill of supply, then the officer will return the goods to him or give back the services, and the registered person has to pay back the cash paid to him, because to check whether the registered person is, whether he is issuing the invoice or not, to check that these provisions are there in section 67 subsection 2. And we are moving to seizure. Section 67 subsection 2 deals with search operations, and even this seizure powers are also there in section 67 subsection 2, and section 129 deals with movement of goods, the seizure of goods during their movement, and 130 confiscation of goods while they are in movement, where the conveyance is not covered by proper documents. These are the provisions which empowers the officers to do such operations. Whether the GST officer can seize the inventory of a registered person? The answer is yes, but under the Income Tax Act, they are not empowered to seize the inventory. And the things we have discussed, even anything can be seized by the department. In case of perishable goods, the department has to make an inventory of that perishable goods, and they have to dispose the goods in the open market, and the proceeds has to be appropriated towards the taxable person's tax liability. And documents which have been seized during the search operations or maybe under section 67 subsection 11, they can retain till they want it. There is no restriction to the powers of the officer. Only they can retain till this period or that period. They can retain those documents or records or information till they pass the adjudication orders. Whether the taxpayer is having the right to take the extract of the documents or books of accounts or the other documents seized by the department, the law says that yes, he has a power, he should be permitted to take the extract or copies of that, but the proper officer has reasons to believe that if giving the extract or copies of that information will adversely affect the proceedings of the act or it is going to prejudicial to the interest of revenue, he may object for that also. But wherever the permission is given to take the extract or copies, it is under the supervision of a proper officer, authorized officer, and during that time only he has to, specified time only he has to take the extract. And wherever the registered person pays where any inventory is seized, he can pay by way of a bond or maybe by way of a payment of tax, interest and penalty, he can get release of those goods. Maybe during even the proceedings are pending, he can do it. The recent amendment which was proposed in Finance Bill 2020-21, even without pendency of the provisions, wherever there is a initiation is there under section 67, chapter 10 or chapter 14 or chapter 15, they can seize the goods, go for provisional attachment. But where was the pre-proposed amendment is only where the proceedings are pendency. Pendency means say one search is undertaken, certain matter is pending before the Supreme Court, any High Court, similar case where the registered person is asking you keep the proceedings pending till the disposal of the High Court judgment or Supreme Court judgment. During that period, to protect the revenue, the department was empowered to make the provisional attachment. But whereas in the proposed amendments in 2021 Act, now the officer, the moment he initiates the proceedings, he can go for the provisional attachment. I think that is not a welcome amendment in the law. One needs to object that provision amendment. I think we have to wait till it is going to become, when it is going to become the Finance Act 2021. Now we'll move to arrest provisions. Before we go into section 169 or 132, section 60 to section 105 of the CRPC deals with summons, seizure and arrest provisions under the CRPC law. So any person, any chartered accountant or advocate who is practicing in such practice in GST should have the knowledge of section 60 to section 105 of the CRPC. Very simple provisions, and what is the power of the officer, what is not expected, and what are the powers of the person who is subjected to search and who is subjected to arrest. All these things are provided in the CRPC section 60 to 105. And before we go into the subject, maybe as we are not the student of law, let us understand two terms. One is judicial remand, another is what is conviction. These are two words used in the CRPC. One is judicial remand, another is convicted. Convicted, we understand that a person against whom the court has given the judgment that he should be put behind bars for the next 5 years or 2 years or 2 days or 1 day. That is conviction. So he has to be behind bars for that definite period of time. But what is judicial remand? under the operations of the CRPC, if any person, if he is allowed freely, then if that person is going to intervene the proceedings under the law, any law, or he is going to hamper the judge evidences, or he is going to fabricate the evidences, in that situation, to prevent his presence in the open place, with liberty, so to protect the revenue of the law, he should be sent for certain period to behind the bars, jail. That is called a judicial remand. So judiciary, that is court of law, will decide for that in this particular case how much time he has to be sent to the jail for the purpose of not to hamper with the proceedings of the act, or not to hamper with the evidences what is used against that person. In that situation, that person will be sent judicially. But any person who is arrested by the GST officers, he has to be sent to judicial custody. The officer who is arrested does not have the right to detain the person beyond 24 hours. That is what CRPC, even the Constitution of India, Article 22 talks about this. Coming to the provisions under the GST law, under section 132, 12 offences have been notified in the law. 12 offences. 12th offence is relating to the chartered accountants or maybe the other persons. The 11 offences are directly relating to the registered person. Out of that, they have categorized into these 12 offences into 2 buckets. The 4 offences, what is they are? Supply of goods without issue of invoice is one offence. Second offence is issue of invoice without supply of goods. Third offence is taking the input tax credit without receipt of goods on a tax invoice. The fourth one is a person who has not paid the tax beyond a period of 3 months when the tax becomes due. The first one is supplies goods but does not issue an invoice. The second one, he issues an invoice but does not supply the goods. The third one is where he has taken the input tax credit though he has not received the goods. That is bill trading act transactions, we can say, or circular trading transactions. And the fourth one is a person who has not paid the tax beyond a period of 3 months when it becomes due. These are the 4 offences have been classified as one bucket. The remaining 8 offences are smaller in nature. They have been bucketed into bucket B. And the 12th offence says that a person who commits or abets the commissioning of any offence under the in contravention of the provisions of the GST law. So the word abetting, so we come into that picture. So the department booking chartered accountants under bucket A, not under the bucket B. That is what pathetical situation. If we fall under the bucket A, then there is a definite arrest, provided certain parameters are met. But the department, if they book a case against us under the clause L of section 32, subsection 1, where is a abettor, then we are not subjected to arrest. That is what I want to drive to your minds. And further, these 4 offences which are in bucket A, where the value of the tax evaded is more than 5 crores of rupees, will become a cognizable and non-bailable warrant. Bucket A offence, where the tax evasion is more than 5 crores of rupees, it amounts to cognizable and non-bailable offence. All other offences, that means where the tax evasion under bucket A, it is between 2 crores and the 5 crores. Bucket A offence, where the value is 2 crores and the 5 crores, it becomes non-cognizable and bailable offence. In the other offences, there is no arrest power to the department. Only a trial or the court procedure, prosecution procedure will be initiated. If the courts find that a conviction is given against that person, then will be subjected to jail. Otherwise, those offences which are not cognizable, non-bailable, non-cognizable, bailable, for those offences no arrest is prescribed under the GST law. If it is cognizable, what is cognizable? A case which only can be trialed by a court of law is cognizable. Or else we can say that a bigger offence, which cognizance of that offence only can be trialed by a court, is called cognizable offence. What is a non-bailable offence? An offence for which the person who is arresting has no power to grant the bail. Only the forum above him has the power to grant the bail. So if a GST officer is arresting, then only the first class magistrate has the power to grant the bail. It is called non-bailable offence. In case of a bailable offence, the person who is arresting can grant the bail also. So what is the offence and what is the punishment for these cases? In case of a cognizable and non-bailable offence, where the tax involvement is more than 5 crores and it fits into the bucket A offences, then the punishment is 5 years imprisonment with fine. If it is less than that, the minimum imprisonment is 6 months. So where a case is fit for 5 years imprisonment or 3 years imprisonment, but the court is granting only 6 months imprisonment, in those cases the court has to record the reasons why he has been given lesser punishment. Even the court is having the restricted powers to give the lesser period of punishment. Coming to the who is authorized to arrest a person, any proper officer not below the rank of commissioner, not joint commissioner here. So a superior officer than the joint commissioner. If you understand this analogy, for search seizure the joint commissioner, for inspection the joint commissioner, and for the arrest a commissioner is required to authorize this arrest. For adjudication, if I pass the show cause notice, can I make the assessment? When you have different authorities for the purpose of different levels of operations, for the purpose of issue of show cause notice, if I am authorized, then I am not authorized to make the assessment. The officers who is making the assessment, the officer who is issuing the show cause notice should be two different independent authorities. But nowhere this principle is followed. Supreme Court in number of judgments says the person who is making the inquiry cannot make the adjudication. But nowhere it is followed, but it is a good case for us to win. Just to share what is really happening in the field and how can we safeguard the client, for that purpose I want to share this information. So I think we have covered this slide, and as per Article 22, the person who is subjected to arrest need to be informed why he is getting arrested. And all the documents relating to maybe the search authorization, search warrant, and the statement recorded and the application submitted before the judiciary, all these things, a copy should be given to that person. It is as per constitution, it is not as per the GST law. Even the CRPC also prescribes the same thing. So this is going to be my last slide. And I think we have received the information that the President has arrived. So I'll conclude my presentation in next 5 minutes. See, where it is a cognizable and non-bailable offence, he has to be arrested and to be produced before the first class magistrate, say in Hyderabad. It is Economics Offence Court Nampalli, which is the judicial authority before whom the person has to be produced within 24 hours from the time of arrest. But in practical, this is not happening. Persons are detained for more than 3 days, 4 days, 5 days by the department for grilling, for investigation. It is not followed, but one has to prove that they are behind they have been retained by the department for the past 4 years, 4 days or 5 days. But it is very difficult to prove. But maybe one can take have the information beforehand. We can take the video recording and all these things. We can protect the assessee. But one has to do this activity. So other offences where it is less than 5 crores of rupees and where it is under the bucket A, then the officer who is arresting can grant the bail. If the bail is denied by the same officer, then he has to produce before the first class magistrate. That is cognizable and non-cognizable and bailable offence. Even the officer where the quantum of the tax evasion is between 2 crores and 5 crores, he is subjected to arrest, but immediately he can grant the bail, station bail, and then he can be released. In all other cases which are falls under the bucket B or even under bucket A, where the quantum is less than, tax evasion is less than 2 crores of rupees, then all those cases there won't be arrest, only prosecution proceedings will be initiated by the department. In all cases it is 6 months to 5 years, not more than 5 years. But the court have a authority to reduce this 5 years to 6 months, but not less than 6 months, that is minimum. And whether a anticipatory bail can be obtained by any person who is in the anticipation that is going to be arrested. So in our own judgment, on our own Telangana High Court and Supreme Court in case of P.V. Venkatratnam case, P.V. Ramana Reddy case, the Telangana High Court and the Supreme Court have said that in GST arrested, no anticipatory bail can be granted. That and has given certain directions to be followed while arrest. So all the other high courts following those directions given by the Supreme Court, not giving the bail. But of late there is a wisdom prevails. And the Gujarat High Court and Delhi High Court, in couple of cases, they have granted the anticipatory bail also. So when a person who is subjected to arrest in the state of Telangana because of P.V. Ramana Reddy's judgment may not get the bail in Telangana, but other states it is possible to get the bail. And if you look at section 32 subsection 1, the wording, it started like that where a person has committed offence. But now it has been changed from 1st January 2020, say that causes to commit and retain the benefit arising out of it. So there is an offence which has been committed by the person, but any benefit out of that offence, if he is retaining that benefit, then only he should be subjected to arrest. That is what an amendment is made in the law. In 2017 Act, it is not there, but by way of a Finance Act 2020, there is amendment is brought in this section. So now where a person who is retaining the benefit out of that offence, then only he should be subjected. And there is one circular of the Central Department in case of service tax, they have issued one circular. The same circular even today is also being used by the Central Tax authorities. This circular has given various procedures to be followed by the department before the arrest. Say against me, my tax evasion in my case is 100 crores. If I pay 50 crores of tax, then I should not be subjected to tax. That means 50% of the tax is paid. Then that person should not be subjected to arrest as per this circular. And there are certain list is given, the procedures to be is given. The department has to follow those prescribed procedures on this circular. So because of this circular, in one case we could get the bail in 1 hour of our client's case very easily. In 1 day we got the bail because of the circular. So friends, please keep all the things which I have said in maybe in the last 1 hour's time, and then I look forward, so many chartered accountants practice in the area of search and seizure under the GST law. This is not a big thing to do, but we need to know the certain procedures under the CRPC and also under the GST law that one can practice in this area. So thank you for your patient listening, and I thank the Hyderabad branch for giving this opportunity. Thank you, Varun.